guys, so I am here to talk about what I am currently reading, chat to you about my thoughts at the point I'm in the books I'm reading. So without further ado, let's get into the books. Now I'm going to start with the one that's really got me in turmoil, and that is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. Now I mean, it's got me in turmoil in a good way, in an intentional way. I am feeling very emotional reading this book. So this book is a retelling of the Greek myth of the Trojan War. I say myth, I mean lots of people think the Trojan War was real, but the sort of the mythological version of that war told us by ancient writers like Homer in the Iliad. So this is kind of a retelling of the Iliad and some of the other events surrounding that, but from the perspective of Briseis and focusing on the women of Troy that are enslaved during and after the Trojan War by the Greek soldiers. So Briseis is one of those girls, and she is given as a concubine, essentially a sex slave to Achilles, the Greek hero. And this book, like I said, is so emotional. I think you can already gather from the topic that it deals very heavily with enslavement, with war, with rape, and it is so difficult to read in that it gets to you, and it's a very dark story and there's not really a lot of moments of light in it. However, it's very compulsive and easy reading in the sense that you can totally get into it and just like speed through it, and I have been. I am past halfway now and I only started it a couple of days ago. It is like very compulsive reading, but hard hitting, as you would expect and want it to be. This is not a light topic, and Pat Barker deals with that topic in such a sensitive yet real way. She doesn't like shy away from it, and like she very much looks at the way it's affecting Briseis as a person, like how it's making her feel, being like sort of losing her family, losing her home during the war, being enslaved, losing her free will, and all of these things. And Pat Barker in the past has dealt with topics of sort of war and PTSD in her Regeneration series, which was incredibly highly praised, and that sort of dealt with post-World War I sort of effects of war on soldiers, I believe. But obviously this is a look at how war affects women, and specifically in antiquity through this myth. And I think it's so interesting, and Pat Barker's such a good person to be dealing with this topic, and it's not quite like any myth retelling I've read before of this topic, and it really sort of makes me reflect on films like Troy, which very much romanticise the relationship between Achilles and Briseis. And yeah, I think it's really important to remember that these women were being enslaved. And there is a play by Euripides called The Trojan Women, which deals with what's happening to the women of Troy after the fall of Troy, and sort of their thoughts on being enslaved and being captured, and it kind of recalls that in its sense. And like there is a sense that the ancients were aware of this in their own literature, and I think Pat Barker's really bringing that to the forefront. But like I said, it's very hard hitting, so sometimes I like binge and then I go, need to put it down, need to read something else, need to think about something else for a short period of time. But I imagine I'll be finishing this one in the next day or so, and I would highly recommend it. It is out on the 30th of August. Today it is the 28th of August when I am recording this, so one to look out for. I'm also reading A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. This is the first in the Mirror Visitor series. This is an English translation published by Europa Books of a French young adult fantasy series, and this book is wonderful. I am so into this story. Also, can we just talk about the cover? I'm just staring at it in the viewfinder because it is gorgeous, but what's inside is gorgeous too. This is one of those books that says on the inside flap it is for fans of His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, and I actually have to agree. Now, it's not the same as His Dark Materials, but I very much see why a similar audience would enjoy it. This is a very complex, well thought out fantasy world. It's very atmospheric, it conjures up really vivid images, it's intriguing, we've got like a solid protagonist to follow that you can really kind of just sort of like get in the mindset of and be rooting for. And our protagonist Ophelia is a young girl who's grown up on one of the worlds in this fantasy world, and she has just been betrothed to a man from another one of the like sort of cities, from City Celeste, sort of against her will. She doesn't really have any choice, so she's been betrothed to this man, but as soon as she meets him, he's pretty standoffish, and she has to go to his home with him, and it turns out she really just can't trust anybody, and it's about her trying to find out what's going on at this court that she's been introduced to, finding out that she's like a pawn in a political game, and who can she trust, who can she not trust, and it's so much fun. She's not like a girl that romanticizes her situation. She is like quite like thoughtful and focused, and I really like her as a protagonist. Everybody in this world has a sort of ability, and hers is that she can like read the past of objects by touching them, and she can also travel through mirrors, which makes for interesting adventures, and I'm just super enjoying this one. I'm so pleased that Europa have translated it into English. Like, thank you, France. Thank you for giving this to us. It is wonderful. And I don't think the sequel is out until next year, 2019, in English, which gets me a little bit riled up because I think I'm going to want to read the sequel really soon, but I'm not sure my high school French can manage reading an entire fantasy novel in French. We'll see how desperate I am at the end. Maybe I'll have to sit down with a dictionary, like slowly reading it, but otherwise I will be eagerly anticipating the release of the sequel in English as well. And yeah, I would just highly recommend this. I'm really interested to see where it goes. It's a very magical, wonderful, immersive story, and like I said, definitely something I would recommend to fans of historic materials. And lastly, I am listening to the audiobook of Monsterous Regiment by Terry Pratchett. This is one of Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels, and in a sense it's a standalone. The central characters of this book are very much new. They're newly introduced to the world, and you don't have to have read any of the other Discworld books to read this one, because the main characters you are learning about for the first time in this book. However, it is somewhat part of a series, the first in which is called Truth. And if you've read Truth, which is about the start of the first newspaper in the Discworld, it will sort of like, I think, add to your reading experience. It will help you get some of the jokes and some of the context. But I am loving this. I have a feeling this is going to be one of my new favourite Discworld novels. I am past halfway now and I'm just adoring it. I sometimes forget just how much I love Terry Pratchett when I leave a while between reading his books. The last one I read by him was quite a sad reading experience because it was the final Discworld novel, and if you've read that you will know that it's quite an emotional reading experience. This returns to the true humour, good fun of Terry Pratchett, and it follows our protagonist, who is a young woman who decides to join the army, so has to disguise herself as a boy. A little bit Mulan-esque in that sense, and it turns out like everybody in her platoon has basically got secrets that they are hiding and aren't what they seem, and it's great fun. Love our central character, love all the characters in this one. It's just spot on. It is Terry Pratchett at his best. I keep laughing out loud, which is exactly what I want from a Terry Pratchett book, and anything could happen at this point, to be honest. I'm also feeling this is sort of like a light-hearted, good, fun way to make me feel close to my dad. My dad was a massive Terry Pratchett fan. He got me into Terry Pratchett, and we'd often quote Terry Pratchett to one another, laugh about the same things in the books, and sort of laughing out loud to this one that I hadn't read before makes me think of really positive memories of my dad, and it can be really easy when you're grieving for somebody to just sort of dwell in the horror essentially of what has happened. So it's really nice to be able to think of like those nice memories, and kind of have that like positive feeling about like the positive impact they had on your life. And yeah, so I've got like that added layer to my experience of reading Terry Pratchett, and I'm just loving it. I'm so keen to listen to another one actually once I finish this one, get the Discworld sort of wrapped up. I'm kind of scared to wrap up the Discworld, but I have read I think like 2/3 of the Discworld books, and it's a scary thought to finish them all, but at the same time they are equally as good on reread, so it's not really a problem. But those are all the books I'm currently reading. I would love to hear from you if you have read any of these books or would like to read any of these books. What are your thoughts? Please chat to me in the comments down below, because I always enjoy chatting with you, and let me know what you're currently reading. Is it good? Is it bad? I hope it's good. We can always hope that what we're reading we're enjoying. But yeah, please do leave any thoughts in the comments down below. I look forward to hearing from you. Happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!